So we've got a little bit of fixing to do on this engine, nothing major. We've got the sump to replace. We've already replaced the AC compressor, and we've got a few electrical connections to do and a couple of pipes to swap out. All the impact of the accident has been here. There was a few bent pipes and stuff like that, but that's all okay. The aircon pipes will get replaced. The connection was broken on the actual AC compressor itself, so we replaced that. And there's 3 electrical connections. I'm going to show you a new loom for this 2 litre TDI engine out of the Crafter is about £175 second hand. The electrical connectors, you can actually buy those. The main thing is that the electrical connector and the pins inside and the weatherproofing don't come as a package, so if you just order the connector, it is just going to come as a connector. You can get them all obviously from VW. The parts are also shared with, I believe, with Skoda, Audi and others, so there's a price match to probably do there. But yeah, other than that, some of them pretty generic. Go on Amazon, get hold of some pins and see what you've got to do. So let's have a look at these 3. So one clip which is broken for us is this one. You can see actually the wiring, it's not damaged, but the clip itself has come off, which will result in it losing its weatherproofing. You can see the back there. So new one of those was ordered from VW, cost about £6. The important thing here, the weatherproofing, the pink clip, the wiring and the prongs are all okay, so I didn't need to order those. So we're just going to replace the clip on this one by pulling out the pins, putting them in the new one. The second one to look at is the oil pressure switch here. It's actually cut off the wires, and it's also snapped all the actual connectors, so we needed a new connector for this, and this is one where we do need the pins and the weatherproofing and everything else, so we can rebuild the whole clip. And lastly, this one here on the alternator, just an earth cable, one half's here, one half's there. It's just a cable break in this one. The clip's okay, all the pins are okay, so we're just going to basically join this together. So that's your 3. There's replacement clip, everything in place, a replacement of absolutely everything to rejoin those cables, and this one where we just need to join the earth cable together. For rejoining the earth wire, I'm going to use a couple of different things. I'm going to solder the 2 wires together. I'm also going to use a sheath, which is metal inside, standard crimp type connector to protect it even further. These do actually shrink. And then over the top of this, once it's shrunk, I am going to put some shrink wrap as well, just to make sure it is totally weatherproof. This is the second electrical connector. The yellow cable is actually a spade on each end, provided by VW. So basically you put this into the new housing, chop it in half, and you'll have 2 female or male parts of these to put in. And with the last connector, we slide the purple pin guard back, pull out the 3 pins, remember in the order, there's numbers on the actual connector as well, put them in the new connector, make sure everything's nice and sealed and tight, and put it back in place. All good. So unfortunately somewhere along the way it's got a crack in the sump, just a small one somewhere. Now I've cleaned it up, I can't even see where it is, but basically the sump is just fastened in by a lot of 10mm bolts, and they're not really high torqued up, so you can get them off quite easy. Some of them don't even look like they're even all the way in. I'm not going to remove any of this wiring or this pump, mainly because it's all strapped to the alternator above. It's not going to move very far anyway, so and it's not strapped to the sump, it's strapped to the main block, so we'll leave that as it is. There was a couple of bolts up here I'd missed. They're pretty hard to get to. You need a really thin socket and a long bar to get up there. The other thing you can do is drop these on the way out, and they will fall into the gearbox housing. It's a plate on the outside, so it's not much to worry about, but obviously putting them back in, you just need to be careful, otherwise it'll all have to come off again.
I then started to prepare the new sump. This is a second-hand sump, so it'd been in another van. I needed to make sure it didn't have any sealant on it, which would form a gap for any oil to come out. So I took a really sharp chisel, carefully went round here, a little bit of sealant remover as well, and as you can see, it came up pretty nice. Also had to do the same on the underside of my van, just to make sure there was no sealant which would allow any oil through.
I removed this oil sensor from my previous sump. That's because I know this one worked when it was on the van. There was no errors on it. Didn't know if the one which had come on the new sump would work, so swapped this over. Also put in a new sump plug, and then got any tools I need for putting the sump back on. And that's because once I put the adhesive on, it has a 5-minute window to get the sump back on, and there was 20 something bolts to go in. So here we are, putting the sump back on. The technique to do this is actually to fasten the 20 smaller bolts with the hex key to a minimal amount of torque, then put in the bolts through the gearbox to secure the sump in place, and then basically tighten up to the specified torque for the 20 bolts again, and allow it to set. All that has to be done in 5 minutes from putting the sealant on. That's the engine back together. All those electrical clips have been replaced. Everything's been joined together and sealed where it needs to. We put a new oil filter in there and fixed the leaky sump. Put a new one on there. All done. The last thing to go on before it does go in the van is the auxiliary belts, the V-belt. I haven't done that yet because I'm not sure whether to just replace the alternator whilst I've got it out, but that's a job for another time at the minute. Reason for that is it could have got wet whilst it was still in the van in the salvage yard. Could affect it, and also because it's going to be a camper van and it's going to charge the leisure battery, it probably needs uprating from its standard as well. Just a quick update on the rest of the van. The chassis leg still isn't straight, but the thought is that the gearbox mount is actually providing a lot of strength because it's got a solid plate across the leg, and the bend is obviously just below it. A little bit of surface rust at the minute because it's been raining on and off in Yorkshire. It has been covered up, but obviously it's just not going to stay completely dry. So what I've done is I've ordered a new gearbox bracket, and I've ordered the end plate as well. Actually the end plate is in here somewhere. Here we go. So what I've got to do is drill out all of those spot welds, which I've started to do. It's just taking me forever. Once those are all drilled out, I'll try and bend the leg again. If it still doesn't go back, last case scenario basically is to just drill all the spot welds out on the entire leg and replace the entire leg. with a straight new one. Once again, thank you for joining us on this build. It's being more challenging than I ever thought it would be, but it's good fun. Any questions any of you have got, please just post them in the comments to try and get back to you, and we'll get back to some regular content when I've spent probably about 3 weeks drilling out these spot welds.